Testing, testing. Welcome to the Walker Talkers Fear the Walking Dead edition.
Fear.
Oh, shit. Leg sweep, motherfucker. You know, once the walkers are like clawing at the feet, it's too trope. I'm just like, he's not gonna get him. Oh shit! That was pretty bad. And there's just a whole like walker party going down. Pinata, candy. Oh, you got a grenade. Oh shit. Fuck years! Ah! What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Walker Talkers, brought to you by PanNerdia. I'm AA Ron.
I'm Pete. Nice to see you.
And welcome to the Fear the Walking Dead edition. We're going to be doing some special episodes here with the Fear the Walking Dead, kind of like book-in shows, kind of to start off the season, the mid-season kind of finale, as well as kind of the premiere, and then we'll kind of talk about it as the Walking Dead shows back up in our neck of the woods. But we want to thank you guys for joining us last week for Survival Sunday. I know we had a lot of technical difficulties, but alas, you guys still turned up and checked us out, and we appreciate that. So we figured we'd give this to you, and we got a little something special later tonight. We'll talk about that at the end of the show. But for now, we need to talk about the premiere of Season 4 of Fear the Walking Dead, as well as what we think is going to happen this season.
And really, to try to speculate what's going to happen, you got to reflect a little bit on some events that happened in the first 3 seasons. Everything from like walkers being released from like the freaking Staples Center, here come like 20,000 walkers all in one, to like helicopter scenes galore. There's people running into the blades, that they're getting shot down and crashing, all that, to other big events like there was a bazaar where it was an old matador place, and it was turned into like a market, and you had to like give them something to get in.
Barter, essentially.
Barter, yeah, like a walkie-talkie, whatever, something that's worth something to even get in. And that actually also encompassed like Nick, the character, harvesting brains from walkers so this one dude could get the like dula oblongata and get like the what do you call the adrenaline out. Oh, and then like they would eat the little piece of like, they would have all the adrenaline to get that super, super high.
That was real intense, man. I mean, and it kind of showed how far Nick would go.
But also, airplanes, boats, islands, like what would happen? Like when we watched the original Walking Dead, I always wondered, like, when this all went down, when people were on airplanes and trains and like, they would go off on a boat and say, I can survive on this,
right, or
find an island or a national park. They answered all those questions in Fear on all those what ifs, and yeah, it doesn't matter where you're at in the world, including Strand, who's such a great character, played by Coleman Domingo. He was back on the boat one last time, and on the radio he talked to an astronaut that was the last living person in space in the ISS, and they had conversations about books, about everything else, and he even confirmed, when the lights went out, it was global.
Which is crazy to think about.
Yes.
Like, could you imagine experiencing that?
Simultaneously, evenly around as far as that conversation goes. So they reveal a lot. So now we look forward to, and I left out a bunch, like the dam. The dam is actually a good place to like end it on, because that's where season 3 ended.
Right.
And when the dam broke and was released to the people, which was a good thing, we lost a lot of characters that were introduced in that season. Daniel kind of disappeared too. We're not sure about his whereabouts, but in this first season of Fear, starring Lenny James,
right,
we do sort of actually kind of find out who's at least together at the point of Morgan meeting them.
Right, the fact that they actually are alive, because we were left on a cliffhanger, and it's just kind of crazy that they incorporated a time skip after such a cliffhanger. That it's an interesting play, but I see why they're doing it, because you know what? They're tying the series together finally, and who better to do it than Lenny James or Morgan Jones himself.
The savior of the Gimple universe that is The Walking Dead right now. I mean, he really might... hey man, he kicked off that first episode of Fear the Walking Dead. Mind you, you could have totally just watched that and thought it was another episode of the OG Walking Dead. Correct.
With just Morgan meeting some new characters to join that cast. You would have never really tied it in until the very end of the episode when we get a kind of
Lenny James himself probably didn't know the difference because he had only 6 days in between finishing shooting the original and starting his first scenes in Fear.
Right.
So, like, he was probably, like, mind swirling around for a while until he finally had those one-on-one scenes with the new main characters that have been added on for Season 4.
And we are going to get into talking about all those characters in just a minute. But, hey, guys, did you know something a little different here this time around? We're surrounded by walkers! Boo! Like my Hank Hill there. Yeah, man, so we got some walkers joining us today. You know, just, hello. I was trying to grab him. Coo, 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 coo.
Pick your nose.
And hope you guys are enjoying that.
PanNerdia upgrade!
Whoop, whoop, whoop. So, like we said, Lenny James came in and just kind of took the show over, it felt like. And it, like we said, it kind of reminisces of an OG Walking Dead because it literally starts off, well, besides the cold opening they had with John Dory.
Yeah.
That's a new character.
Not like the fish.
Right, exactly.
Not why. John Dory.
Starts off with him out, eating a can of beans, reading.
Played by Garrett Dillahunt.
Garrett Dillahunt, which I've never seen the actor in anything else.
He was in him and Kim Dickens were in that one show. What was it called? It was before Walking Dead or whatever. It was a Western show.
Huh.
It was it was totally a Western show.
Well, I know Kim Dickens. She was in Lost. She played in Lost.
She was in
a
something
minor
else.
role.
She was in like one season of something else. We'll get back. It'll hit me later.
So
continue about Morgan.
So yeah, no, or John Dory. He was out there and eating some beans, and he heard some noises. Started trying to talk to who he thought might have been an alive person, not the Walking Dead. And
at that
first
point,
time
his character hasn't been around a human being in quite some time.
Yeah, like a year or something. Like his first time he's ever spoken, like over a year.
Yeah.
And so we kind of left at that. Gives the title screen, and then we see Morgan, and this is where it's kind of like the regular Walking Dead. He's back at Jadis's, junkyard.
Yep. Oh yeah, totally. Like we never thought when we were sitting in the cinema we were going to see Rick and company featured in the first chunk of the first Fear episode of season 4. Well, yeah, that's right. Are we good?
Yeah, we're good to go.
All right. So Jadis opens the door. There's Morgan. He's like, Rick is trying to make all the things right. You're invited to come back. She grabs her stuff. She's like, aren't you coming? He goes, no, I'm going to stay here. Obviously, he was there long enough, as Scott Gimple said, for an eggplant to fully grow.
Right.
So a certain amount of time he was there when Rick came to visit him, Carol and Jesus and whoever else came to visit him. It was, by the time they came to visit him, he had already had all this stuff growing in that little box of vegetables, little vegetable garden. So that kind of gives you some sort of a time span of when Morgan really truly got up and found a car and
right. He was there a little bit because he's already established as he needs to this is where this goes, that's where that goes. He has a food source. He's good to go. And then they try to convince him. He ultimately kind of gets up. I think ultimately what Rick said got to him. He gets up and I think from what how I perceived it is he was heading back to Hilltop Alexandria, wherever they were at the moment, ready to join them again, and with those visions, and he keeps thinking, clear. Yeah, he didn't think that, but you get it. He was going a little kooky. And he stops
I
himself.
know I'm not right. I know I'm not right.
He sat in that intersection for like, seemed like a couple weeks thinking, and then he finally was like, nope, I'm going, and he
That's right. I forgot about that. He just chilled in an intersection.
and kept pondering, and it was only
Very
like a night.
Very reminiscent of him wandering around his little fort area in the Clear episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very reminiscent. And then he proceeded to move on, to run away, as it were, and get away from the ones he thinks he would lose. And it was a montage of him just walking, driving, running, walking, driving, running.
He found 2 cars. The first one, full tank of gas.
Right.
So he probably left Virginia, went through West Virginia, went through Tennessee, went through part of Kentucky, went through, wherever else, and then found himself in north central Texas. Because, right? Isn't that where?
Yeah, he ends up
kind of in the middle of north central Texas, or even maybe further down south. Because I know that the Fear characters that were leaving the dam were all destined to go to the Houston, Texas area because of the whole power grid assumption by the last few bad guys from the end of season 3 in Fear. And that's where the Clarks were kind of wanting to go, but then the dam broke and they all got separated. Well, now we're here with Lenny James. He takes the 2 cars and then walks till his feet bleed to death almost.
Yeah, which is it's interesting they actually put that in there too, because some shows wouldn't consider that. They'd just be like, oh, he walked, and you're like, how did he make it that far, and how is he not this exhausted?
Yeah.
And they put it into motion, and then
John Dory was the first person he accepted to take him in for a little sleep at least.
Right, just be like, you know what? Yeah, I will. You're being nice. Sure, you're not like this vile human being right off the bat.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how their friendship starts. They end up running into some ruffians.
Yeah. It was kind of cool seeing them together. I kind of already embraced the character John Dory because when I saw him on top of a car hood with walkers surrounding him and Morgan, it kind of felt like, all right, like I'll accept you into the Walking Dead family. Like you're kind of Rick-esque in a way.
He's sticking with the homie. He's not trying to run away on his own.
He's a solid guy.
Right. He's trying. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna sit here and help you out. And
and they're one hell of a sharpshooter.
Yeah, and we wonder, that's kind of a weird backstory with him too, because he's got that one gun, and he even asked Morgan if he's seen this
looked just like that, belonged to his wife.
Right? And
initials on it.
So you're wondering if maybe they were a gun slinging duo that entertained or something together.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I
could see him being a carny.
Especially
with his voice. And when I saw him in Talking Dead speak the actor Garrett. He still kind of just naturally has kind of this unique voice.
Yeah.
I can't really explain it. It's kind of like this kind of backwards froggy, but then not. It's like almost going to go there, but doesn't.
Yeah.
Can't really put my thumb on it. But
it's interesting, and he seems like a very friendly guy,
Yeah.
And ultimately, they end up running into a little rough crew right off the bat. He wants their stuff.
And then they get saved by a vehicle that's very reminiscent of Abraham's military vehicle, only even better.
Yeah, more badass.
Yeah.
Right, it's like a SWAT truck.
Right.
And who else but
Althea.
Ayo.
Played by Maggie Grace.
Also from Lost.
Correct. And she pulls up, she's like, oh, I like people, this and that. And she actually knows this, kind of rogue little mini gang that, kind of trapped Morgan and Dory.
Just assume she makes deals with them.
Yeah, exactly. And then, they know that she's got the upper hand because there are these panels that pop open where she has multiple machine guns.
Yeah, on like a Heisenberg machine.
Yeah, exactly, like the last episode of Breaking Bad, exactly. Just like that, actually. Just a multitude of them. And so she kind of saves them, but then they try to jump them, and then that's kind of the scene we showed where Morgan is... Is that the scene where he's fighting the dudes on the roof, or no?
No, not yet. So
I'm thinking of when he's with. Yeah, never mind.
Right. So what happens is she takes him in. I forget what she exchanges.
Oh, their story. Because she's a journalist.
But what does she give the ruffians to take them off? I think she just gives them a couple nights worth of food or something.
Oh yeah, she offers them food or death kind of thing.
Yeah, right.
Leave me alone kind of thing. So
so she takes them, and then once they get on the road, she offers them. She wants a story for saving their hide, and essentially it comes out that she's like a journalist, which is odd in a post-apocalyptic world.
Yeah.
You know, maybe she is trying to document.
Even her video equipment looks like post-apocalyptic, like gathered, like put together. You know what I mean? Like,
right. It's kind of scrappy, some duct tape.
I've never seen something like that before. It was pretty cool.
So what do you think she's doing? She's kind of like documenting in her own right, kind of like how that guy did who was with the governor, how he wrote down.
I think that Althea's already seen so much bad shit that she needs this. She needs to listen to other people's story, kind of like watching TV or reading books and articles. This is her way of getting away from it, even if it's stories about it. You know, she wants to know what did you do before and all that. Which there's a lot of reoccurrence of that in the Walking Dead world. There's always like that one person that wants to know the background of everybody. They
do, and they kind of want to. They're more intrigued with kind of how it's affected their psyche up to this point, and that's cool for us too as the viewers. So she ends up trying to get some information out of them. They ultimately pull over, and she gets some stuff in this like trailer park kind of place. Maybe she's familiar with it. She's stopped there before. They're there for a while. She tries to get some footage of Morgan. Of course, he's being angsty and not really wanting to have it. Yeah. But ultimately, the ruffians come back again.
Yeah, they get jumped in this little like RV lot, and that's when Morgan does his.
Yeah, he goes to whoop-ass mode.
Goes to whoop-ass mode. And Dory helps him out, and then Morgan gets in a heap of shit of trouble and falls through the roof, and that's where he
blows up the deal. And
the grenade. I guess you would call it a Walker grenade. What do you call
combo?
Kamikaze.
Yeah, right. It totally is, man. I mean, because he could have died there. He ultimately comes out, and they both see him like, damn. And they get away from the ruffians ultimately. They don't get her truck, which ultimately that's what they were after. They wanted her truck.
Yeah, they want that vehicle.
I mean, who wouldn't in the apocalypse? Yeah. But they get away, and ultimately Morgan, I feel like, comes to the point where he's like, you know what? Okay, I think I might be able to come to trust people more and just kind of deal with it.
When you say they get away, you mean Morgan, Althea, and John Dory.
Of course.
Because that other group, they didn't get away unless you count their body parts being separated, because that's pretty much what happened. They got munched on nice.
Right, they got away from this reality.
Nicely, yes. Yeah. But then they're on the road, and we see a character in the middle of the road.
Right.
And when we watched the previews of that, we always thought, oh, there's Morgan on the road. But actually it was the character Alicia, also played by an actress named Alicia Denham Carey. But she was playing Possum. And then her group, Nick's girlfriend, Strand, they all jump out.
Right.
And they capture Morgan and the crew. And it ends right there on a cliff note. But you obviously know the way that they're breathing and the way they look like they just went through like total hell war.
They're totally like
something really bad must have happened right before they ran into Morgan.
Like almost feral. They were almost like feral in that instance.
Very much so.
You know what I'm saying? They were on the edge.
But it was Nick, Alicia, Luciana, and Strand.
Right.
I don't know if there was anyone else.
Nope, it was just those four.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was just interesting to see how they brought them into the episode, because the whole time, like I said, you could have been watching a regular episode of The Walking Dead. You're sitting there, and it's Morgan and new friends and their adventures, and then you get to the end, you're kind of thinking in your own head by that point, like, where's Madison at? Where's Alicia and everybody else, Nick? And then at the end, you don't get Madison, but you get the other four, and it's in such an abrupt manner, and you come to know and love these characters already, Morgan and co, that now Nick and them seem like a threat.
Yeah.
They seem like the bad ones in the situation.
They do, but I have a hunch that they're going to either go one or two ways in tonight's episode. They're either going to go where, okay, now we're going to go right where we left off, and then you'll get little snippets of like how they got to there. Right. Or they're going to backtrack all the way, leave Morgan out completely, and show like Madison wash up on the shore, and then who she meets, then who Alicia meets, which is obviously this Naomi character played by Jenna Elfman, and then all these other characters kind of meet up, and then they finally obviously get back together, and Madison's the only one that's kind of missing at that point. Will it be that direction, or is it going to be the other way around? Like they got into some trouble.
Right.
And a lot of stuff went down, and Madison was just left behind. So.
Yeah, man. I mean, as far as how the beginning of the season is going to continue to roll out, kind of post the premiere, I think they are going to kind of do some world building in terms of what kind of happened, backtrack. Yeah. And then I think they're going to do world building in terms of their new AAA baseball stadium home. And maybe anchor in a true villain possibly this season. Not so much of a nomadic sense. Because I've loved the fact that you brought up, that they've shown so many scenarios that we didn't get to see. But I want some more of a solidification now.
The last 3 episodes or so of season 3, though, I thought that main character, bad guy, he's gonna be around for a while. He was so charismatic in such a dry, spooky way that I was loving him. I thought he was gonna continue on, but some great stuff there. And I think that at this point, we're going to probably see a villain, and who knows, maybe even further down, Daniel.
Could it be the Whisperers?
Well, I'm talking about just Fear right now.
That's what I'm saying, Fear.
I think Whisperers might show up in both, to tell you the truth.
Really?
Because the fact that...
You heard it here first.
Well, the fact that Aaron and I were in the cinema watching this double whammy Survival Sunday.
Right.
And Rick is talking to the crowd after Negan's being saved, with the neck slash thing, and he points at this gigantic herd.
Right.
It's ginormous.
Yeah, it's huge.
And he goes, "That's the threat. That's the real threat out there." And then I realized the artwork of that spot on that hilly, grassy area had the fence posts without the actual fencing in between, and it was very reminiscent of the Whispers from the comic book, where they put the heads on the fence posts. And then I thought, wait, the way the grass and the trees were, it was very much like the Kirkman comic book artwork. And so that got me excited. But then over on Fear, we saw photographs of the first of season 4, and it for sure had Whispers, people that had the full ongoing stuff. Their fingers were kind of sticking out of the walker, gloves or whatever. But everything else. So I think it might be a little bit of Whisper or Whisper-ish stuff in both.
I mean, I would love it. I mean, what would you think of? Because we've always predicted that Nick could possibly somehow find his way into the Whisperers.
Yeah, Nick would be a good one.
Because the fact that he has all the gut kind of shit.
Who knows? Maybe Sherry, who disappeared a long time ago from Negan Sanctuary, maybe she'll take on the character of Alpha, or just be with the Whispers or something like that.
That's what I'm saying. There's so many possibilities. And what if this season we kind of start seeing Nick slip into that a little bit, and that's when we'll,
If anybody can, it's definitely
That's what I'm saying. It would just be interesting. They started really kind of weaving the series together, and especially now with Fear taking the leap of the time skip, they kind of need to, like I said, solidify more of a villain or a bigger threat that is ultimately going to be a grounding threat for the
Nick has already been so dark and so funny and so everything in between, and had his own personal apocalypse leading up to all this, that he could easily do that. But because his girlfriend is obviously back with him, we didn't know that was going to happen until we saw this. But Luciana, played by Denai with a Y, not an I, Denai Garcia, she's actually reunited with him, so I don't know if they're back in love again or they're just surviving together again. But she would probably have to disappear or perish for Nick to go into a Whisper style society. I think that's my
something would have to kind of pluck that last string. And with that, folks, we are going to go ahead and close out this episode of the Walker Talkers, Fear the Walking Dead Bookshelf Edition. I'm A.A. Ron.
I'm Pete.
And this is PanNerdia. Be sure to join us here live in just about 30 minutes for our first episode of Westworldia, the pre-game Westworld talk show.
That's right. We're gonna review. We're gonna project and predict stuff about Westworld.
Yeah, talk about it. We're just like this show pretty much, but in the universe of Westworld. We're going to do predictions, previews, reviews, thoughts. We're going to talk about, the actors and the actual industry, as well as
the gigantic budget of HBO.
Oh, geez Louise. I know,
I mean,
man.
it's too... I don't know how we're going to squeeze so much information, although you'll have to tune in and find out.
On Westworldia, brought to you by PanNerdia. And we'll catch you guys there.
And don't forget, the Walker Talkers will continue when fear comes to a close for the next bookend show of Fear the Walking Dead.
And we got to get going because these guys have been like standing there the whole time, and I'm sure they want to bite. Peace.
Yeah.